never mind. Let us turn to keep the conversation on Donald Trump. Trevor McCrisken is Associate Professor of US Politics and Foreign Policy at the University of Warwick. He's also the co-author of The Ordinary Presidency of Donald J. Trump. Great title for the book, Trevor. Good of you to join us today. No doubt in your mind he will be impeached?
It's very much looking that way. It would be a huge surprise if the House didn't vote for impeachment this afternoon into this evening, because obviously the Democrats control the House of Representatives. They have 233 representatives plus an independent that votes with them, compared with the 197 Republicans in the House. And so they just need a simple majority. And so, yes, they will be voting for both of these articles of impeachment, I think, to pass. And then there will be a trial in the Senate early next year.
And given the makeup of the Senate, is this anything more than just a gesture?
Well, this is where things obviously get very difficult for the Democrats, because they don't have the majority in the Senate, and there's an even higher sort of requirement for the conviction and then removal of a president. Partly because, when this was written into the Constitution, it was done to prevent this from happening on a regular basis, to make it difficult, deliberately make it one of the more difficult checks and balances within the system. So you need a 2/3 majority in the Senate to have that go through, and of course the Republicans have the majority there. There are more Republicans than there are Democrats. You'd need 20 Republicans to come across and vote with the 45 Democrats and the 2 independents to actually see Donald Trump convicted and removed from office. That is, again, highly unlikely to happen. It's an incredibly partisan process, this, with the Democrats and the Republicans are vying with each other for who has the biggest argument and the best chance, therefore, of actually winning next year's presidential election, which I think is much more what this is about. But the president will almost certainly be acquitted in the Senate, and so it does feel like this is it's an attempt by the Democrats to undermine the credibility of a sitting president, but it's not going to see him removed through this impeachment process. What happens at the polls in November next year obviously is a different matter.
Is it just a joke trial then, or do real witnesses get called, real examination be done, and therefore there is the potential for the jurors in the face of the senators to change their mind?
Well, I certainly wouldn't describe it as a joke trial. I think, it is a very serious accusations that have been brought against the president, that he's abused his power for personal electoral benefit, that there is a lot of evidence that's been put forward by the Democrats to support that charge. They also believe that he's obstructed, Congress through his unwillingness to participate in that process effectively. And so these are serious charges, and they will be taken seriously in the Senate. It's sort of incumbent on the Republicans to at least hold the trial, to make it look like a legitimate process and one that is fair to all. But it is the Republicans that control that process. So actually, we may not see any witnesses actually coming to the floor of the Senate. There may be written testimony, there might be legal counsel represented, but it may not be sort of as exciting a piece of television as we might be hoping for here. And there's even questions over whether we will actually see Donald Trump himself sort of standing up and defending himself in the Senate. I think he'd very much like to, but it's really going to be down to the majority leadership in the Senate to decide exactly how this plays out in January.
I was going to ask you, does he have to give evidence if he's called, and will he be called?
I think if he is called to give evidence, that he certainly will stand up and do so. I think he would love the opportunity to, as he would put it, to have his day in court, or his day in the Senate trial, and to be able to stand up and kind of wave his hands in the air and say, I did absolutely nothing wrong here. This is a witch hunt. This is all the sort of stuff that he's been saying in his tweets, in his interviews, and then in this letter that he directed to to Nancy Pelosi, who is the Speaker of the House, the Democratic Speaker of the House of Representatives, yesterday, where he absolutely refutes that anything has been done wrong by him as president, and that this is entirely a fabricated process by the Democrats for their political gain in this forthcoming presidential year. So yes, I think he would love to get up and be able to do that in the Senate, and will probably be trying to ensure that he gets that opportunity.
Just a quick thought on his tweet of the day. Happened about 15 minutes ago that he rants, as usual, in capital letters about he did nothing wrong. Read the transcripts. He then says, "This should never happen to another president again. Say a prayer." Well, apart from invoking higher powers, is he suggesting that the laws that talk of the impeachment laws and procedures should be changed?
Well, he may be suggesting that, but I think that would be highly unlikely. I mean, again, you need a two-thirds majority to get a constitutional amendment through. They just don't have the numbers for that, and so again, I think this is, it's typical of this president to suggest that somehow the Constitution is being abused by the Democrats rather than that he has perhaps abused his constitutional powers. But again, it's all to appeal to the people that are likely to vote either for him for re-election in November next year, and also, of course, all the senators and the House representatives that are Republicans, or indeed on the other side who might go for his challenger, whoever that emerges to be, on the Democratic side. So I think what we're seeing at the moment has a lot more to do with which party do you believe? Which argument do you believe? Do you think this is the kind of president that should be sitting in the White House, making decisions, carrying out foreign policy? If he's going to use the kind of tactics that he appears to have used with Ukraine, is that someone that you trust, someone that you want to vote again for in the presidential election? The Democrats are obviously hoping the answer to that question is absolutely not, and that whoever they have running as their final candidate is the person that will get elected next year instead. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all unfolds in the coming weeks. But yeah, today we're going to get that vote of impeachment. The two articles will pass, and then it will go to a Senate trial.
Trevor McCrisken, good to talk to you. Thank you. Trevor is the Associate Professor of US Politics at the University of Warwick.
LBC News.
Ah, the great British roast. Where mobiles are set aside, the TV goes off, the family comes together, and everything